Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. I'm your host, and today, wow, we're diving into something really fascinating. The peptide oxytocin. You've probably heard whispers about it, right? It'd be called the love hormone or the cuddle chemical. And yeah, those names definitely hint at what it does. But honestly, they barely scratch the surface. The real story is way more complex. Our deep dive today is going to look at why this tiny molecule plays such a huge role in, well, some of the most fundamental parts of being human. We're talking birth, bonding, trust, how we handle stress, even those surprising connections we feel with music or, our pets. And to help us navigate all this, I'm absolutely thrilled to have an expert with us today, a neuroscientist who really specializes in these kinds of neuropeptides and behavior. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's genuinely great to be here and yeah, to talk about oxytocin. It really is a remarkable molecule. I mean, think about it, just 9 amino acids long, tiny, but its influence, it's profound. It's woven through so much of the human experience. Just picture it. Oxytocin is surging during childbirth, helping bring a new life into the world. It's there in that quiet moment, a parent holding their newborn skin to skin, forging that incredible bond. You feel it in a hug from someone you love, or that just deep calm that washes over you when you're petting your dog after a rough day. These aren't just feelings, right? They're moments partly orchestrated by this very peptide. It's like one of those invisible threads, a biological component weaving through our most important moments, building connection, belonging. Understanding oxytocin, I think, is really about understanding the fabric of our social lives, our emotional well-being.
That's a really powerful way to put it, the fabric of our social lives. Okay, let's definitely unpack this. Where should we start? How about the beginning? To really get why it's so important now, we probably need to go back, way back, like over a century ago. How did scientists even first stumble upon this thing? What was the first clue?
Yeah, that's the perfect place to start because its origin story is really tied to its most, well, dramatic physical effects. The first hints actually popped up over 100 years ago, 1906, I believe. It was Sir Henry Dale, a British pharmacologist, really a pioneer. He was doing experiments with extracts from the posterior pituitary gland. Now, this gland, it's tiny, sits at the base of the brain, but they knew it made something that affected the body. The details were fuzzy. Dale noticed something pretty amazing. These pituitary extracts could make uterine muscles contract powerfully.
Wow, okay, so a direct physical effect.
Exactly, a huge finding. It clearly pointed to some kind of chemical messenger at work, influencing this really fundamental process, reproduction.
So they saw the effect, but didn't know what chemical was doing it yet, like an effect looking for its cause.
Precisely. That observation was the breakthrough. Then, building on Dale's work, just a few years later, 1909, a physician named William Blair Bell confirmed it. And he took it a step further, clinically. He saw that these same extracts weren't just good for inducing labor if it stalled, they were also really effective at controlling bleeding after childbirth, postpartum hemorrhage.
Which must have been huge back then. Life-saving, really.
Absolutely critical, especially when maternal mortality was such a massive concern. So right away, the effects were linked to these powerful life-or-death moments around childbirth. It wasn't just a lab thing. It had immediate medical weight.
It's amazing how science works sometimes, right? See the effect, then work backwards to figure out the what and how.
Yeah.
So they knew something from the pituitary was doing this. But what was it?
Exactly, and identifying that what took time. It was actually almost 2 more decades. It wasn't until 1928 that a team led by Oliver Kahn, an American biochemist, finally managed to purify the active substance. That was a huge deal back then, isolating the specific chemical causing those contractions, and that's when they officially named it oxytocin. The name itself tells the story. It comes from Greek, oxys meaning swift, and tokos meaning birth.
Swift birth. Okay, that makes perfect sense given what they knew.
It perfectly captured its most obvious function at the time, yeah. It really cemented that initial perception. Then came another massive leap, early 1950s. This was down to Vincent Duvigneau, an American chemist. Absolutely brilliant work. He figured out the exact structure, that specific chain of 9 amino acids, with the disulfide bond making it kind of circular, the blueprint. And not only did he figure out the structure, he was the first to actually synthesize it in a lab, make it from scratch.
Whoa! Synthesize it. That must have opened up so many doors for research.
Totally transformed things. Suddenly, you could have pure, standardized oxytocin to study, not just crude extracts. It paved the way for medical use, too. And yeah, that work earned him the Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1955. It turned oxytocin from this mystery substance into a known chemical entity.
What a journey. From a weird gland extract to a Nobel Prize-winning molecule. So for ages, its identity was really just birth hormone, maybe milk let down too.
Exactly. For a long time, that was the story. Birth hormone, plus its essential role in stimulating milk ejection, the letdown reflex during nursing, those were the core recognized functions vital for mammals. But, as science evolved, especially neuroscience in the later 20th century, researchers started realizing, wait a minute, there's more going on here. Its role started spanning way beyond just reproduction. They found it was involved in complex social stuff, emotional balance. The big aha moment was realizing this molecule, so good at physical things, was also subtly shaping, well, the chemistry of connection, our inner emotional world.
So it started as a story about the mechanics of birth, but it blossomed into this much bigger story about human connection itself. That's quite an evolution.
Exactly. And that shift from the physical to the psychosocial is where so much of the really exciting research is still happening today.
Okay, so we know its history now,
Mm.
this incredible path of discovery. Can you walk us through how it actually works? How does this little 9 amino acid peptide manage to do all these different things?
Absolutely. And the how is just as fascinating, honestly. It shows some really clever biological design. So, oxytocin is primarily made by special nerve cells, neurons deep inside your brain in a region called the hypothalamus.
Hypothalamus, right. I know that's like a major control center.
It really is tiny but mighty. Specifically, these oxytocin making neurons are in two clusters there, the paraventricular nucleus and the supraoptic nucleus. Think of them as the main oxytocin factories. And from these factories, oxytocin basically takes two main routes, two different ways it gets released and acts. First, many of these neurons send long arms, axons, down to the posterior pituitary gland, right underneath the hypothalamus. From there, oxytocin gets dumped directly into your bloodstream.
Ah, okay. So into the blood like a typical hormone.
Exactly. When it's in the blood, it acts like a classic hormone. It travels all around the body and acts on distant organs that have the right receptors, the right locks for the oxytocin key, like the uterus, causing contractions during labor, or the mammary glands in the breasts, triggering milk release for nursing. That's its broadcast signal to the body.
Got it. A body-wide messenger for physical jobs. What's the second route?
The second route is where it gets really interesting for behavior and emotion. Those same neurons, or maybe different ones nearby, also send connections directly into other parts of the brain. We're talking key areas like the amygdala, that's huge for emotions, especially fear and reading social cues, also the hippocampus, crucial for memory, and the prefrontal cortex for decision-making, social thinking, complex stuff.
So it's released inside the brain too, not just into the blood.
Precisely. And when it's released inside the brain, it acts differently, more like a neuromodulator or a neurotransmitter. It's a localized signal, passing messages between brain cells, tweaking the communication in circuits involved in bonding, trust, empathy, emotional responses. It can even be released from dendrites, not just axon terminals. Very targeted influence.
Wow, okay, so it's like, heck, it does two jobs. A hormone out in the body and a messenger inside the brain.
That's a great way to put it. Yes, it definitely wears two hats, a broadcast hormone and a targeted brain modulator. And that's why it's so versatile. Now, for oxytocin to actually do anything, whether it's a muscle contraction or influencing a neuron, it has to connect with its specific receptor, the OXTR. Think of it like a lock and key. Oxytocin is the key, OXTR is the lock. It only fixed there. When it binds, it flips the switch inside the cell, starting a chain reaction that leads to the cell doing something, contracting, firing differently, whatever its job is.
And are these receptors, these locks, always the same? Or can that change?
That's another amazing part. The number of these receptors isn't fixed. It can change dramatically. Take pregnancy, for example. As a woman gets close to giving birth, her uterus starts making hundreds of times more oxytocin receptor.
Hundreds of times.
Yeah.
Ser-
Seriously. It makes the uterus incredibly sensitive to even tiny amounts of oxytocin. It's this biological fine-tuning that allows for those powerful, coordinated contractions needed for labor. It's brilliant, really. And while the hypothalamus is the main source for these big surges we're talking about, it's worth knowing that small amounts are made elsewhere, too. Ovaries, testes, even heart muscle, blood vessels. What that all means is still being researched. But for the major effects, the dual hormone neuromodulator roles, it's really those hypothalamic neurons running the show.
That clears up so much. That dual action system really explains how one molecule can touch everything from birth to bonding. Okay, let's get practical then. We understand the how a bit better. Where does oxytocin show up in everyday life, like situations we all recognize?
Oh, absolutely. It's woven into so many of the moments that make us feel connected and, well, human. One of the most powerful examples is right after childbirth. That skin-to-skin contact between a parent and the newborn. It's not just a nice, cuddly thing to do. Placing the baby on the parent's chest triggers a huge oxytocin surge in both of them, mutually.
In both. Wow.
Yes. And parents often describe this feeling, right? An overwhelming calm, less stress, just this immediate deep connection. That's oxytocin working. It's strengthening that crucial bond, calming the nervous system for both parent and baby after the intensity of birth. It's literally laying down the neurochemical tracks for attachment.
I remember a friend telling me about holding his daughter for the first time. He said, the world just stood still. All the noise faded. Just this incredible calm and connection. So that feeling, oxytocin's a big part of that.
Yes, absolutely. That profound sense of calm, that intense focus, the feeling that nothing else matters. Oxytocin is a key player there. It doesn't diminish the beauty or the meaning of the moment, not at all. But it helps explain why that calm and love feels so incredibly deep. It's the biology supporting the emotion, wiring us for connection right from the start.
Truly amazing. What about other connections, like friendships? Does it play a role there too?
Definitely. Think about seeing an old friend after ages. That big hug, the laughter, how you just fall back into easy conversation. Those positive interactions, the physical touch, the shared laughter, feeling comfortable and understood, they all trigger oxytocin release. And that oxytocin then reinforces the trust and closeness you feel. It helps solidify why those bonds feel so good and so secure even after time apart. It's part of the warmth of camaraderie.
So it's not just romantic love or parent-baby stuff. It's in friendship love too.
Absolutely. That's key. It shows up whenever trust and connection are being built or reinforced. It's a general facilitator of social bonds. It helps make being with people we care about feel rewarding.
Okay, what about pets? I swear, sitting with my dog after a stressful day is like therapy. Is that just me or is something chemical happening?
Oh, it's definitely not just you. That's a real phenomenon. And yes, oxytocin is right in the middle of it. Research has actually shown that petting a dog increases oxytocin levels in both the person and the dog.
No way. And the dog too.
Yes. It's a two-way street, a mutual neurochemical boost that strengthens the bond and promotes calm for both species. That's a big reason why interacting with pets feels so good, so stress-relieving. It's biochemistry meeting companionship. That cross-species bond is facilitated by this ancient peptide. Explains why your dog looks so happy and why you feel better.
That makes total sense now.
Okay.
Okay, mind blown a little. What about things like music or being in a group?
Yeah, the music connection is fascinating too. Think about collective experiences, singing in a choir, dancing together, even chanting at a game. These activities are known to raise oxytocin levels. People feel this sense of unity, belonging, shared emotion. Oxytocin helps amplify that feeling of being part of something bigger. But it's not just groups. Even listening to powerful music alone can trigger oxytocin release, which might help explain why music moves us so deeply, why it can feel so connecting or cathartic, even when we're by ourselves. It taps into similar pathways.
That totally explains the goosebumps at a concert when everyone sings the same line together. That feeling of connection. It's not just sound, it's chemistry.
Precisely. It's chemistry creating connection, amplifying that shared feeling. It shows how deep the link is between our biology and our cultural experiences, like music.
Okay, one more big one. Stress.
Yeah.
We all deal with it. And I know for me, when I'm really anxious, sometimes just a hug can change everything. It calms me right down. How does oxytocin fit in there?
That's a classic and incredibly important fact. Oxytocin acts as a natural stress buffer. It directly interacts with your body's main stress system, the HPA axis. It helps counteract the effects of the stress hormone cortisol. So when you get that hug or even a hand squeeze or a supportive pat from someone you trust, it triggers oxytocin release. That oxytocin then helps lower your cortisol levels, slows your heart rate, basically calms your physiological stress response down. Studies have shown this, like giving people intranasal oxytocin before a stressful task can make them feel less anxious and lower their cortisol, especially if they also have social support. Animal studies show it too, less stress response, higher pain tolerance with more oxytocin. It's a powerful internal soothing mechanism.
So it's like having a built-in stress buffer that kicks in when we connect with people we trust.
Exactly. It doesn't make the problem disappear, but it makes it feel more manageable. It fosters that feeling of safety and support, helping us cope. All these examples really show how this tiny peptide underpins so many warm, comforting feelings, making our social world feel, well, better.
This is painting such a positive picture. Bonding, trust, pets, music, stress relief. But I've definitely read things suggesting it's not always positive, that the love hormone idea is too simple. Can we dig into that nuance?
Yes, absolutely. And that's a really crucial point for understanding oxytocin accurately. That love hormone nickname. It's catchy, but Honestly, it's misleading. It's much better to think of oxytocin as an amplifier, maybe a connection hormone, but not something inherently good or bad. Its effects are incredibly dependent on the context. The social situation, your own state, who you're interacting with it, all matters.
Context dependent. Okay, what does that look like in practice?
Well, in positive situations where you feel safe and trust the people around you, oxytocin does tend to boost those feelings, trust, generosity, bonding. It makes good social moments feel even better, more salient. But change the context. Put people in a competitive situation or one where they feel threatened or defensive. Suddenly, oxytocin can actually sharpen feelings like rivalry, envy, even gloating when someone else fails schadenfreude. Studies show it can boost cooperation within your group, your in-group, but it can sometimes increase suspicion or defensiveness towards outsiders, the out-group.
Whoa. Okay, so it doesn't just create love out of thin air. It can amplify negative social feelings too.
Exactly. It tends to amplify the social emotions that are already relevant in that specific situation. It makes social cues, positive or negative, stand out more.
So calling it just the love hormone is definitely misleading them. Maybe social amplifier is closer.
Social amplifier or connection modulator,
Yeah.
something like that, is much more accurate, even if it's less catchy. It really reframes it beyond the pop science headlines. There's classic animal research that shows this really well. Prairie voles. They're famous because they form lifelong pair bonds, which is super rare in mammals. Oxytocin is absolutely critical for them to form these selective bonds. If you block their oxytocin receptors, they struggle to bond strongly or specifically with one partner. But the key finding was oxytocin didn't make them generally more social with everyone. It helped them choose who to be social with. It strengthened the bond with their chosen partner, their in-group.
Ah, so it defines the U.S. rather than making them universally friendly.
Precisely. It solidifies those in-group ties, loyalty, trust, cooperation within the group. But sometimes that strengthening of us can go hand in hand with increased wariness or even antagonism towards them. So it's not a magic potion for universal love, it's a powerful modulator shaping the boundaries of our social world, amplifying existing dynamics, for better or worse depending on the context.
That adds so much important depth. It's clearly not a simple molecule. Okay, before we wrap things up, what's happening now? What are the exciting frontiers in oxytocin research? And what are the big questions scientists are still trying to answer?
Great question. Because honestly, despite all we know, it feels like we're still just scratching the surface. It's still very much early days in many ways, and the evidence is constantly evolving. One huge area, maybe the most talked about, is mental health and psychiatry. There's a lot of research looking into whether oxytocin could help with conditions involving social difficulties or stress problems, things like autism spectrum disorder, social anxiety, PTSD, maybe even schizophrenia. The idea is, could boosting oxytocin help improve social understanding, reduce anxiety in social situations, or maybe regulate stress responses?
And what are they finding? Is it looking promising?
It's complicated. Some studies show promising hints, maybe slight improvements in recognizing emotions or feeling calmer in social settings. But the results are really variable, highly context dependent, like we discussed. What works for one person or in one specific lab setting might not work for another. There are so many factors: genetics, the specific diagnosis, how the oxytocin is given, the social environment. It's definitely not a magic bullet.
Oh.
We need much more careful, controlled research before thinking about clinical use.
Right. It sounds like a long road from lab finding to actual treatment.
A very long road, yes. Another big area is just basic neuroscience of social behavior. Scientists are using amazing tools now at advanced brain imaging like fMRI, recording electrical activity of neurons, even tiny sensors to detect oxytocin release in real time in specific brain circuits. The goal is to really map out how oxytocin works at the circuit level. How does it influence empathy, trust, emotion regulation, social memory? Understanding the fundamental wiring. Then there's pharmacology. People are trying to develop better versions of oxytocin or drugs that target its receptors more precisely. Maybe something that lasts longer or only hits certain receptors to avoid side effects. But again, it's crucial to remember. Right now, approved medical uses are very limited, mainly childbirth and breastfeeding support. Everything else is still research.
So lots of drug development happening, but cautiously.
Very cautiously. And finally, it's even used in social neuroscience and economic studies, like those trust games where people decide whether to cooperate or compete for money. Giving oxytocin in these games can sometimes shift decisions towards more trust or generosity. But again, context matters hugely. It raises fascinating questions about biology and social decisions, but we have to be careful not to oversimplify.
It sounds like a field buzzing with activity, but also facing some real challenges. What are the main hurdles or gaps researchers are dealing with? And are there cautions for us listeners?
Definitely some significant challenges. One big one is how to actually get oxytocin into the brain reliably in human studies. Many studies use an intranasal spray, but honestly, it's really unclear how much actually crosses the blood-brain barrier and reaches the target areas. It can vary wildly between people. There aren't even standardized guidelines for dosing, which makes comparing studies really difficult. That variability is a major headache for the field.
So even just delivering it consistently is tricky.
Very tricky. And that leads to a really important caution: avoiding the hype. Because oxytocin is natural and linked to love, there's this temptation to think boosting it must always be good. People see unregulated products online, but scientists strongly warn against that. Boosting a hormone outside of its natural context isn't necessarily benign. It could have unforeseen consequences. Remember the context dependency. Boosting oxytocin might increase in-group bonding, sure, but it could potentially increase suspicion of outsiders, or even anxiety in some situations or people. It's not a simple more is better situation. Clinical trials are done with extreme caution for a reason. We need to understand the nuances and potential downsides.
That's such a critical reminder. Complexity and caution are key. It really feels like oxytocin bridges our biology and our relationships in these profound ways, but also reflects the complexity of us as social beings.
Exactly. It's a fascinating bridge between our internal chemistry and our external social world, constantly shaping our experiences in subtle, context-dependent ways.
Well, this has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for taking us on this deep dive into oxytocin. Seriously insightful. We went from its discovery around childbirth to its roles in bonding with partners, kids, friends, even pets. Its connection to music, stress, trust, and that crucial nuance about context. You've really helped us see it's so much more than just a love hormone. It's this fundamental modulator of connection and stress.
It has truly been my pleasure. I really enjoyed trying to clarify the science behind it, showing how this tiny molecule plays such a massive, complex role in our lives. And yeah, there's still so much more to uncover, which keeps it exciting.
Before we sign off, just our required disclaimer. The mentioned products and peptides are not intended to refer to any peptides or products sold by Power Peptides. Products sold are strictly for research purposes and not intended for human consumption. So here's a thought for you to take away. As you go about your day today, maybe notice those moments of connection, a hug, a laugh with a friend, petting your dog, and consider that subtle chemistry happening inside you. What does it really mean for us to understand the biological threads that weave through something as profound as human connection, something to mull over? That's all for this deep dive. Please subscribe so you don't miss our next exploration into the fascinating world of peptides. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.